Hello, Claire.
Oh, hello, Sheila.
Hi. You had 7 miscarriages.
Unfortunately so, yes, I did.
And did you find out what was causing them?
Yes, I was very young at the time. I was 19 when I had my first miscarriage, and I was 22 and currently pregnant when I went to see a specialist at St Thomas's Hospital. I didn't know at the time, but it's got the Louise Coote lupus unit there.
Yes.
And I'd been referred there because of the blood test that had come back finally that they'd done after my 6th miscarriage, because I was being diagnosed with systemic lupus and also a blood disease called antiphospholipid syndrome.
Yeah.
And that stops the blood crossing the placenta and eventually ends in a miscarriage, unfortunately, at different stages of pregnancy. So,
and was it treatable?
yes, it was. There was a lot of backpedaling because when I told the consultant that I was actually pregnant, when he was telling me that I couldn't have children, he was suddenly, oh, yeah, no, that's fine. I was like, what? And it was like I wasn't in the same room from 5 minutes beforehand. However, I was then referred to a consultant at my local hospital where we lived then and put on a course of heparin injections and aspirin and monitored every single week with scans, etc.
Checking your blood, was it?
Yeah. All of the things being a pincushion, regularly. But yeah, and then it was sort of full bed rest towards the midterm. And then I was in hospital for about 5 weeks before I actually had him.
Right.
They were like just weighing up, how long can we keep him in to, bump him with steroids, etc.
God.
Before I carked it, or he did, and it was just horrible. But yeah, and I wasn't prepared to have him. I just wasn't prepared because he was just going to be a miscarriage in my mind by that time. It was awful.
And do you think you could have had that and should have had intervention with that blood condition and find it out sooner?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, if the tests were there only 3 years after I'd had my first miscarriage, then why didn't they do it at the beginning, even if maybe after 2 miscarriages? I was very young, there's apparently nothing wrong with me. I had no idea I had the blood disorder or the lupus. I wasn't ill or anything, so I was dealing with being told these.
So it wasn't harming you, but it was harming your chances of carrying a baby to full term,
Yeah, and then I also, all during the pregnancy, I'm worried about what I've actually got wrong with me because it's sort of nearly pre-internet. I couldn't look up anything. I didn't get given any leaflets about different things. And
so do you think after one miscarriage, a woman should be able to seek some tests?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's going to be natural occurrences, obviously, but what's the harm in just putting her mind at rest, even because stress on the next pregnancy.
But also, particularly because we now know. I've got a friend who had this similar situation to you, Claire, years back. Her kids are now both at university, but she, your situation is quite common. So why not just give every woman who's had a miscarriage that blood test?
Yeah. It must be relatively simple, especially now. I mean, we're 24 years on.
It's known. Yeah, same kind of ages as my friend's kids. So if it is that routine now, it may not be clinically. I don't know. I'm talking about on that front. But if it is a simple blood test, why not give a woman that blood test after she's had a miscarriage? Thank you, Claire, and I'm glad that you got there in the end. That's Claire in Cambridge. It's 3:45.